Welcome to the Bookies Plus weekly betting show where you'll get free NFL picks from 3 of 4 of our gambling experts. Week 3 picks from 4 of our gambling experts, I should say. Make sure to check out this gambling show each week throughout the NFL season. Remember, you can find Bookies Plus free picks at bookies.com/picks, and we have them from some very accomplished gambling experts. Not only can you find free NFL picks, we've got you covered for just about any sport you like to wager on. Again, bookmark bookies.com/picks. Refer to it often. Back every Wednesday. All right, this week we'll have picks from Bill Speros, the senior betting analyst for bookies.com. Adam, the ATM Thompson, hitting over 60% NFL the last 3 years. Nick, the Whalen, been on VSiN, DraftKings, RotoWire, over a decade in the industry. The three of us are ready to go. I'm Jim Coventry. Let's get rolling. But don't forget, one more time, you can find these picks that we're going to give you today, along with others, at bookies.com/picks. Bill, kick us off. What's one pick you like this week?
Well, my favorite game of the week is Denver at Tampa Bay. That line slid under 7 points. The Bucs are rolling. They pulled off a nifty win at Detroit last week. They have found a groove. I actually like them to go to the NFC Championship game. You know, it's still warm and humid down here. The Broncos have a rookie quarterback, going up against that tough Tampa defense. I think you'll have a nice little track meet for Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the tight ends. This should be a nice big win for the Bucs.
Nick, I'm going to jump over to you because you have the same pick. Give any extra rationale that you may have on this one.
Yeah, I love this one, man. I've been fading Bo Nix so far this season, both in terms of props, in terms of betting against the Broncos. It came through for us last week. We hit the under on that Steelers-Broncos game, and we hit the Steelers to cover 2.5 as well. And, this number's sitting at 6.5 right now at the DraftKings Sportsbook. There are some 7s out there, but I really like this at 6.5. If you've watched the Broncos these last 2 weeks, they found ways to hang in with Seattle. That was mostly just Seattle shooting itself in the foot over and over and over and over in week one. And Seattle was actually not turning the ball over and not taking safeties. They were moving the ball easily on that Denver defense. And, Pittsburgh, very, very limited offense. They punted on, I think, 6 of 7 drives in the second half and still covered that game really easily. The one big play that we saw from Denver came on this, trick play where they lined Bo Nix up at receiver. It was kind of a toss back and there's a receiver open deep. Other than that, they can't get anything downfield, guys. Bo Nix is 11 of 36 with 4 picks on passes more than 5 yards downfield this season. So that's like a 30% completion rate. That's the worst of any quarterback in the first 2 weeks in over a decade. I'm not, closing the book on Bo Nix. I'm not saying that with Sean Payton, he can't turn into a decent quarterback, but he is not a very good quarterback right now. And like Bill said, Tampa Bay's rolling. They had no business winning that game outright last week against Detroit. They had 12 fewer first downs. They got doubled up in yardage. Everything pointed to Detroit winning that game. And somehow the Buccaneers are able to pull it out. I think this is a really, really good spot for them at home this week. So I'm comfortable taking Tampa Bay at that 6.5 figure.
Now, Adam, you like some action in the Cleveland game. Let's talk about that.
Yep, I like the Browns. And this is almost I like the Browns. Deshaun Watson hasn't really shown much. He got his confidence back last week when they scored 18. So this isn't an offense that's going to overwhelm anybody right now. But the Giants, what are you hanging your hat on if you're the New York Giants? Their D line isn't incompetent. That's about it right now because Daniel Jones, when you pressure him, he folds. There's no run game to back him. Malik Neighbors is just getting going, but this Cleveland defense is going to shut him down. And I think the Giants are held to 13 points or less, which should be enough for the Browns and Deshaun Watson to cover. So -6 at home in the dog pound. I think the Giants coach is in trouble. I think the Giants QB is going to be the first domino to fall. I don't know if either one survives the season, but I think this is going to be a rough game for both of them in Cleveland.
Yeah, and Adam, I'm with you on the Browns here and everything you said. You said 13. I said it might be tough for the Giants to get the 10 in this one. But I probably like the 13 a little better because you're getting luck into a few points on a short field or something like that. But yeah, Daniel Jones and pressure, those two concepts really don't mesh well. And that pressure is going to be coming from all over without the blitz, which is an even bigger problem for Jones. And what is he going to do with that fold most likely? And that should give the Browns some short fields to work with. And again, it doesn't even matter if the Browns don't get either of their tackles back who have missed the first two games. Short fields mean everything. And the Giants don't have good enough corners to deal with Jerry Jeudy, and Amari Cooper finally gets going. So I'm with you on this one. Don't overthink this one. We're looking Browns. Bill, give us another pick.
The New England Patriots Thursday night +6.5 over the Jets. Jets. The Patriots had won 15 straight games against the Jets until Belichick's finale last year when he did the Patriots a solid on the way out the door. For some reason, even though the Patriots can't move the ball and can't score, the Jets always find a way to jet themselves when they're playing New England. Maybe it'll be different with Gerard Mayo and not Bill Belichick coaching. But the Jets are not good on Thursday nights. They're 0-6 on the line, their last 6 Thursday night games. 6.5 is a big number, especially, against a team like New England that's relying on defense, relying on running the ball, hopefully not turning it over, hopefully escaping those 6 3-and-outs they had last week. And I just don't know that the Jets are going to win this one by a touchdown. You could see like Jets up by 7 and giving up a safety with 2 seconds to play. There's always something Jetsian that happens when they play the Patriots. That's, one reason why they haven't won a Super Bowl since before man landed on the moon.
Good point. How do you argue that? Jetsian. I like that idea. So both Adam and Nick are on the Lions -2.5. Nick, why don't you kick off and Adam will pile on?
Yeah, absolutely. And, first of all, I'm with Bill on the Patriots. I do like that. Robert Saleh very, very much has struggled against the New England Patriots in his coaching career. 7-11 versus divisional opponents, by the way, against the spread, including 4-14 straight up for Robert Saleh. And on that Browns-Giants game, guys, yeah, I'm with you on the Browns, Adam, but the under 38.5, I think that is one of the best plays of the week. That's one that I'm locking in over at Bookies Plus. Anyway, Jim, to answer your question on the Detroit Lions, I think we're getting a pretty good number here for Detroit in a bounce back spot on the road. I got it at 2.5 earlier this week. I know it's sitting at 3 right now at both DraftKings and FanDuel. Part of it is, I think that false final last week for the Detroit Lions. We mentioned it when we were talking about the Buccaneers. Detroit absolutely should have won that game. We had some key mistakes from Jared Goff, who's looked a little bit shaky through these first 2 weeks, but I thought Detroit got away from its identity. And Dan Campbell essentially admitted that, after the game. This is not a team that wants to be throwing the ball 55 times in a game, right? That's not who Jared Goff is. That's not who this offense is. I thought they got away from the run. They got away from the identity of this team. I think this is the best offensive line in football. And I think they're going to have their way with the Arizona Cardinals. I actually thought we'd maybe see a little more respect for Arizona based on what they've done the last 2 weeks. But you look at that week 1 game against Buffalo, a lot of things went their way early on. They got a kickoff return in that game. Still ended up blowing that lead and losing to Buffalo. And then last week, you're just catching the Rams at such a good time, right? Not only is Puka Nacua out, you got like 4 injuries on the offensive line. You're down 2 starters in the defensive backfield. And then Cooper Kupp goes out in the first quarter. So again, all due respect to what the Arizona Cardinals did last week. Kyler Murray has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But I think this is kind of a reminder spot here for the Arizona Cardinals that the Detroit Lions are one of the best teams in the NFC. Arizona is a fun, young team with some skill talent, but I think this will be a reminder that this Arizona defense has a long way to go. So I like the Detroit Lions this week.
Adam, go ahead and pile on here.
I got nothing else to say.
Right.
No, you said it all. No, I think you're right. I think in the trenches, Arizona's in a lot of trouble on both sides of the ball. Kyler Murray's going to run around a lot, which is fine. But the defensive backfield is good enough for Detroit to kind of negate anything. And offensively, like you said, Jared Goff did not play a good game against Arizona. Really, the whole team. If all you saw was week 2, you would think Arizona should be favored in this game. But Arizona, perfect timing for them to play that Rams team. This is going to be more like the Buffalo game, except Detroit has more weapons, a better offensive line, and a stronger defense throughout. So, yeah, I think Detroit. I think the mismatches in the trenches is really going to be the key. I think Detroit will, forget that week 2 happened. Remember who they are. Like you said, get that run game going again and just pile it on. Like at -2.5, I got it as well. It's -3 now. I'd like it at -6. I think this is going to be a touchdown or more type of game. I like the number where it is because you never know about that back door, especially with a high flying potential of Arizona's offense in a fourth quarter. But -2.5, -3, I'm very happy with those numbers.
Well, let's see. Nick and Adam use the words pile on. They use the word Rams, and I'm going to pile on the Rams here, and I'm going to take the 49ers -7.5. What idiot lays 7.5 in a divisional game? I guess this idiot this week. But look, this is not the Rams. And the good news is the divisional matchup, both teams get up for that game. You don't take a team lightly in a divisional game. And here are the Rams. And we mentioned earlier, Nick kind of mentioned, well, the big deal for the Rams last year was they ran duo downhill. They were able to 3 interior linemen, weighed about 1,000 pounds, and they were very good at just moving the defensive line. Well, Jonah Jackson, their center, is on the injured list. Steve Avila has been on the IR since last week, their guard. This interior line is now one of the worst in the league, so they can't run their downhill scheme. Kyron Williams, 2.5 yards per carry through 2 games, and it might start getting worse than that. As a receiver, he's not getting done. Obviously, the passing game. Offensive line's a disaster. Matthew Stafford, no Cup, no Nakua. Well, he's going to be under pressure from the 49ers, and he's not going to have receivers that can get open quickly. He's probably taking a beating in this game. Other side of the ball, I know Deebo Samuel's out. I know Christian McCaffrey's out. They still have Brandon Ayuk. They still have George Kittle, and they have Jordan Mason. And also, the Rams keep losing people. Their free safety, John Johnson, went down last week. Their best corner's been on IR. This defense is going to be one of the bottom 5 in the league. The 49ers could win this one 41-3, and it wouldn't surprise me. All right, let's go back around the horn one more time. Bill Speros, give us your last pick of the day.
The Pittsburgh Steelers. That line has moved from 2.5 to 1.5 now. They're -1.5 at home against the Chargers, who stayed in the Eastern time zone after the inter-squad scrimmage in Charlotte last week. The Steelers are 2-0, but they've only scored 1 offensive touchdown. But, that's all you need with Mike Tomlin's defense. They're keeping it simple. Justin Fields is going again this week. They might actually get some offense going. I like Pittsburgh a lot. I like them this year. They're sneaky good. They're just running the same sort of plan they've run for the last 2 decades. There'll be a nice juice crowd at whatever Bain Stadium is called these days. And I like Pittsburgh a lot. I like them at home. The discount is nice discount on the line, -1.5. I just think that defense is ready for whatever the Chargers are going to throw at them. And I like them to go 3-0.
The Rooney family running the ball, playing defense. They're probably in that luxury box smoking cigars, high-fiving and clapping it up because that's exactly what they want. Bill, great call on that. Adam, you're going to a little Green Bay Packers action here. What do you like here with the Packers?
Yeah, and I wish I could disagree with anything anybody's saying because it's more interesting. But I like the Niners and I like the Steelers too. Those are among my top plays too, as well as the Raiders. We haven't talked about them. And speaking of intra-squad scrimmage, they get 1 at home this week. And Andy Dalton is basically Jacoby Brissett in a different jersey, which is better than what Bryce Young brought to the table, but I don't think it'll be enough. Anyway, yeah, Packers in Nashville this week. Malik Willis, he did exactly what he needed to do. 12 of 14 passing. Didn't try to be like hero ball. Just made plays and just handed it off to a Jacobs. The Packers are number 1 rushing team in the NFL right now, and I think they can run on Tennessee as well. This is a tougher defense, clearly, than what Indy will bring. But I think they can still do what they want to do. And, the Titans, just no explosiveness on offense. They have the worst turnover differential in the NFL. Packers have the second best turnover differential in the NFL. So I think it's going to be a low scoring game. So +3, I'll take that field goal, even with the road team.
Nick, looks like you're gonna ride a little New Orleans Saints love trainer. This team has been red hot. Talk about the Saints here.
Yeah, I considered Green Bay here. I actually considered the Chicago Bears, who I think are in a decent spot against a very shaky Indianapolis Colts Colts defense. But I'm riding with the Saints. I'm buying in, Jim. I think last week was the big statement win for New Orleans, right? You see week 1 against Carolina, and you're like, well, it's the Panthers. I think we're going to see a lot of teams beat up on the Panthers. They did the same thing to a very good Dallas Cowboys team in Dallas. And now you get to return home, and I think you're catching the Philadelphia Eagles at a really, really good time. You look at the look-ahead line for this, guys, was Eagles -3.5 heading into week 2. It went down to Eagles -1.5 prior to Monday night. After that game, we've now seen a complete reversal. The Saints are 2.5-point favorites right now at the DraftKings Sportsbook. I mean, a 6-point line movement over the course of a week. You just don't see that very often in the NFL, but I think people are starting to respect what we've seen from the New Orleans Saints. I mean, it's not often that a new offensive coordinator with essentially the same personnel as last season can make this big of a difference. But I think we're seeing what Clint Kubiak is able to unlock with what's ultimately a pretty talented Saints offense. I mean, Derek Carr's played 2 of the best games of his Saints career these last 2 weeks, and they still haven't really gotten Chris Olave going. I think that's the key, right? Is, they're doing essentially all this with Chris Olave just kind of being a secondary piece. Once they get him more involved, I think that makes them even more dangerous. Philly, you're coming off of a devastating loss, a game that you felt like you had locked up. They give up this, the quickest 70-yard drive in NFL history to end up losing that game straight up. No A.J. Brown, short week for Philly. You got to go on the road. I think questioning the head coach, right? Reed Blankenship had kind of a weird quote, I thought, after that game saying, yeah, no coaches talk to us in the locker room after the game. We're a player-led team. We don't necessarily need the coaches to talk to us. That's all well and good, but that's a little weird. It's like, what exactly is Nick Sirianni doing for this team? I mean, the Eagles, they've won, 2 games, over their last 8 or 9 dating back to last season. I mean, this is still kind of a rudderless ship. It's a team that makes things more difficult than they need to be. And I think with the way that New Orleans is playing right now, they're going to be champing at the bit, guys, to take advantage of a very, very leaky Philadelphia defense through these first 2 weeks. I think the Saints get it going on the ground. I think they get it going through the air, and I think they cover the 2.5 at home.
My favorite line about the Saints: play action, rollouts, and screens. Derek Carr is mostly kept clean. He might be a bad quarterback when he's clean. He is not a bad quarterback. He can play now touchdown to Shahidi with a little bit of heat. Otherwise, clean. All right, my last pick. Bills -5.5 against the Jaguars. Look, Jaguars have been dysfunctional on offense. Jim. Rushing attack doesn't work. Passing attack doesn't work. Can't get Christian Kirk involved. Evan Ingram pulled his hamstring pregame last week. The Bills, defensively, we all thought they lost so many pieces in the offseason. Nobody really noticed. They have 2 very good outside corners. That defensive line has a rotation of rushers. Von Miller actually looks better than he looked last year when he looked kind of washed. Looks like he can make a little resurgence there. I just don't see Buffalo having a problem containing this offense. And then the other side of the ball, the Jags play the highest rate of man coverage in the league right now. Tyson Campbell's on the injured list. Even if Josh Allen can't find receivers, you're playing man that much, Josh Allen's going to see those corners' backs turn. And guess what he's doing? Taking off with the ball. So he's going to win one way or the other here. I don't know that James Cook gets a big game here unless it's through the air, because the Jags, I think, can do best against the run. But Josh Allen's going to have his work set up very, very well for him in this one. Well, let's recap what we have going on in this show from today. Get the picks on the screen right here.
You're not allowing a Nick rebuttal on your blasphemous anti-Jaguars pick?
Nick, the floor is yours.
Well, who's to say I disagree here? I was just hoping we could avoid this game altogether. I mean, I've been looking for a reason, Jim, to hop on the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can still find at 5.5 right now at BetMGM. I know there's a 4.5 out there as well. So a little bit of line disagreement between the books here. The Jags have played the Bills well in recent years for whatever reason. Even some of those terrible Jags teams at the end of the last decade. You remember that year that Buffalo, I believe, went to the AFC title game. One of their losses in the regular season was a 9-6 loss against Jacksonville. That was the Urban Meyer Jacksonville Jaguars. So they always do find a way to get up against Buffalo. There's a desperation element here for Jacksonville. You go 0-3, your season's basically over, especially with the Houston Texans on the schedule in week 4. So I think this is a proverbial kitchen sink game for the Jaguars. But at the same time, Jim, I mean, they've showed us nothing over these last 2 weeks, especially the last 6 quarters of football to inspire any belief here. I mean, with the Browns out, the Browns are down 2 of their starting tackles again in week 2, and the Jags got almost no pressure on Deshaun Watson. They're I think, a bottom 3 coach team in the NFL right now. I think they're on the verge of a mutiny. And I think if and when they lose this game in week 3, we're going to start talking about Doug Peterson, and that seat really heating up in Jacksonville.
Hey, that 9-6 game of a couple of years ago, that was the Josh Allen versus Josh Allen game, and the defensive Josh Allen won, but there's no longer that matchup. He's Josh Hines Allen now.
I know, and I don't like that. He backed down. He let the other Josh Allen win.
He did. So now he doesn't even have that going for him. He has nothing to prove because there is no other Josh Hines Allen on the field. Somebody else was chiming in. Go right ahead.
Speaking of hot seats, Nick Sirianni, he may not return from New Orleans in much the same way that Bill Parcells did not return from New Orleans after the Patriots lost Super Bowl 31 to the Packers. You may see the over-under is 2.6 million on Bill Belichick flight plans to Philadelphia. If the Eagles lose on Monday, remember Jeffrey Lurie was making overtures to Belichick this offseason and was purportedly thwarted by one Robert Kraft. I don't think Lurie's going to hesitate to pull the trigger if things get out of hand in Philly, and you compound what happened Monday night to another, if they do go the way that we suspect in New Orleans, that situation is going to get critical, and it's going to get ugly really fast, both on the field, in the locker room, and in the world of speculative Bill Belichick next stops.
Well, if Sirianni gets stranded in New Orleans, it's kind of a good place to get stranded. You can hang out there for have a couple of days of fun before heading back to reality. Anybody else? All right. Recapping the picks for the week. So we had Bill Speros went Patriots -6.5, Bucks -6.5, and the Steelers -2. Adam Thompson, Browns -6, Lions -2.5, Packers -3. Nick Whalen Bucks -6.5, matching up with Bill Speros. Lions -2.5, matching up with Adam Thompson. And then the Saints -2.5. And Bill saying we might not have Sirianni's job left. He might be partying in New Orleans for a little while to drown his sorrows. I went with the Browns -6, matching Adam. 49ers -7.5, and the Bills -5.5. Be sure to bookmark bookies.com/picks so you can check out our free picks for both NFL and other sports. There'll be a new episode to show every Wednesday for the remainder of the season. Everybody, good luck and see you next week.